Yes, ma'am. That's fine. I thought about bringing you forward, but we'll just, there I go, relying on check again.
Let's come to order. Not that we're in disorder, but this is a regular city council meeting. It's being held Thursday, June 18th, 2026, with presentations beginning at 6 p.m. and regular meeting beginning at 7 p.m. at Seymour City Hall, 301 North Washington in Seymour, 76380. All notices have been duly posted in accordance and conformance with the government code of the state of Texas, section 551.072C. The city of Seymour attempts to make its meetings accessible to all its citizens. If you have need of auxiliary aids, please notify the city secretary at 940-889-3148 at least 48 hours in advance. The agenda is also posted on the city's website at cityofseymour.org with the following agenda to be considered. We're going to start with a presentation from Mr. Mark, is it Duraney? All right, with AMKO Advisors concerning fund analysis proposal. And welcome to Seymour. And just if you will turn that mic on and speak right into it, and we'll begin.
Is it on? That work?
Yeah, I think it's
okay. I walked right under a vent or something, and there was a cold spot right there. I was like, what is this? Good evening. I'm Mark Duraney. I'm with AMCO, AMCO Bond Services. We also have an affiliate named AMCO Advisors. And I started with the city of Seymour with AMCO Advisors back in 2022 when we assisted the city in issuing a refunding bond from a USDA bond and got it done at a lower rate in the shorter term and saved the city some money. So in the process, we stayed in touch And by the way, I also thank Dr. Brazier for helping me get set up to be in front of you, and I appreciate this opportunity. We've been talking primarily about a capital improvement plan. It's one of the things that we do as sort of a tangent kind of service, other than helping organizations or municipalities issue bonds. But it really sort of a capital improvement plan sort of sets you up for the future, right? It basically sets anything that you're doing, let's say, or decide you want to do over the course of the next 5 years or so. It puts it in writing and it keeps it in front of you all the time, and it allows for a good communication device with the community. So we spent quite a bit of time talking about that capital improvement plan. And as we were doing that, we learned that may very well be a great tool for the city of Seymour. It just might not be the right time. And the reason it might not be the right time is because there have been some issues identified with, basically, I'm going to just say, with the accounting within the city's various funds. Going back to, I believe, about 2019, I also want to make the caveat here that I haven't looked at any of the specific information. Like, I haven't looked at any accounts or anything like that. We've had a couple of conversations, Dr. Brazier and myself have had some conversations just to kind of walk through from a pretty high level what is the issue and how can I help, right? So I want to also stress that I am not a forensic accountant. I think that the one thing is there was an accountant that was brought in at one point to help with the process. I think made some progress and maybe helped to a degree, but then left without finishing. Okay, I never don't finish a job. I don't know if that's sort of a double negative, but I have a really hard time with somebody who would leave and not. I said, I'm not a forensic accountant. We're very, very good with numbers, and we understand fund accounting, and we've done numerous types of analyses like, utility rates and things like that. I said, so I think I can help. And so we put a proposal together. We were going to include in that proposal the capital improvement plan. But we kind of decided, let's just keep that off the board right now, because we don't want to cloud anything. We don't want to get anything confused. We just want to get this first part done so we may feel good about moving into the next phase of a capital improvement plan. And that's not a requirement. You can do it. You don't have to do it. But it would set you up to be able to do that at least. Because right now, there's sort of a mentality that there's money, there's a lot of money, right, that the city has, but we're not sure if we can spend it or what we could spend it on. What are we allowed to spend it on? What fund does it belong in? That kind of thing. Okay, so yes. We could do it simultaneously, but I think that the priority, and again, talking to Dr. Brazier, the priority was let's get our own house in order first, and then let's tell everybody what the house looks like and what it might look like 5 years down the road. So, like I said, I could do it in simultaneously. And it wouldn't create a disservice per se, but I think it might be better for you, for the city, to set that aside just for now. And we're talking about 60 days or so, right? Depending on how everything flows, if you do decide you want to move forward with us. But within 60 to 90 days, we'll have this cleaned up. You'll know exactly what it is you have, where it belongs, what you can spend, what you can't spend. And then we can talk about a capital improvement plan. I will provide you with another proposal for that, totally separate, and we're not going to confuse anybody that way. Okay? Plus, it allows me to really focus and hone in on what these issues are. And I don't even know what they are yet. I know from a very high level perspective, but until I start looking into the accounting system and what the general ledgers look like. So we're talking about that, and I said, well, will your general ledger system give me good reports that I can work with? And there was this pause. And it was, well, sort of. And so one of the items that we're putting into this proposal is to look more closely at that accounting system and whether it's a tool that either just needs to be fixed, like the numbers need to be moved into a certain place, or is it just not the tool that works? We have tons of experience with various software, right? And so understanding what it's supposed to do versus what it's doing is not all that difficult. Like I said before, I'm not a forensic accountant. I don't pretend to be one. But we will get into the accounts. We will look through the numbers. There's a point in time where the previous accountant sort of had things balanced, for lack of a better term, then left. And we need to make sure that we go from that point to today, or the date that we start, if you will, and make sure you know what you have. Then look at the system. Okay, so one of the things in this proposal, and I didn't want to read through this. You guys have seen it. I'm not going to bore you with that. Basically, the way that I put this proposal together was to share with you the things that we would do through this process, through the roughly 90 days, 60 to 90 days, if you decide you want me to do all of it. But I also felt it was really important with respect to the fact that another individual, another accountant was in here and really didn't finish the job, right? And to say, I'm not that person, right? I'm not going to do that. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to break it up into components and say that the only time you're going to pay me is if I deliver one of those components, each of those components. You don't have to even do all of the components if you don't want to. I recommend you do, based on what I've heard. But I'm not going to, it's completely up to you if you'd prefer not to. I think the first part of it, the first component, is really important. It's really understanding where those dollars are. Once we do that, we go in a little bit deeper and start to say, all right, let's analyze what you have out there. So existing debt. Now we know we have spendable dollars, and we maybe it makes sense for the city to spend those dollars on paying down that debt because you could save money. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe there are other things. And that's when we could start having additional discussions on that capital improvement plan kind of dynamic. Like, hey, I have this thing we're going to do in 5 years or in 3 years or whatever. And so some of this money we should just set aside. But at least we know it's not restricted, and that if you decide to spend it, you can. Right? And I think there's just that gap of knowledge right now because of whatever happened back in 2019, we can get it fixed. And that's what we're proposing we do. But we want to do it in parts. I want to protect you a little bit because of that situation with that previous accountant who left and didn't finish the job. I don't finish the job, you don't pay me. Simple as that. So that's, did I miss anything?
No, sir, but I think it's important that the council do look through the proposal. And, we kind of broke that down because there may be some things, and things are moving too, since Mark and I talked, we have completed all of our audits, and we've made some progress on our Encode system, and, we're starting to work out some bugs and things like that. So a lot of things are moving and changing every day. But I just want to give y'all a good general overview and to see that we do have some potential, because we do have some money that we can either pay down debt, or we can invest that in infrastructure, or we can do a combination of both, or we can just invest it in CDs, or, there's a lot of options there. And I felt like we kind of needed someone with a higher level of expertise than myself that could come in there and potentially give y'all some different proposals and some different recommendations on how to, as we clean all this up. And then I like the idea of the capital improvement plan, so that we are being more proactive versus being reactive with our many infrastructure issues that we have. And then we have some capital that we could, invest in that area. And then maybe a long range plan might be for y'all to come back and, borrow some money, or, there's just so many different moving parts and so many different layers. And I was just thinking that someone with a higher level, again, of expertise could bring something to the table that would help us make some better short and long-term decisions for our community.
these fees, these are one-time fees or, so once you get, let's say we did all three of these things, $20,000.
Yes.
And we get to a particular point and you look at and see what our software situation is, you see how much unrestricted money or restricted money's out there,
Yes.
review our accounting system and all that, all those things. Would we pay you annually a fee to maintain or to keep us at a certain place, or how would that work?
I don't have a process for doing this annually to keep it this way. But if we wanted to create one, I certainly could. But I don't know how to say this. I'm always around for help, right? So for questions and things like that, I would like to believe that we could get you to a point where you kind of don't need me and certainly don't need to pay me for this, right? A simple question or bunch of questions, no problem. I'm not going to even charge you for that. But if we get to a point where we need to redo it, usually what we would do is we would come in and let's say we need to enhance the analysis or redo the analysis because there's something new that came. We would most likely do it. It would take us less time. And as a result of that, it would be at a lower fee. But we would present a proposal specifically for that activity before we ever move forward.
But you're going to get us to it. You would get us, assuming that we do this, to a certain point. We've got our plan set up. You have this much money at this point. At a certain point in time, and we advise you to pay off this much debt or invest the money at, whatever.
It's actually going to be the other way around. I'm going to advise you to pay off the debt versus the other way around. And we may not advise that based on what we learn. But yeah, so the first deliverable is really the analysis of the systems and the funds. And then the other two deliverables on here are really more recommendations. Now that we kind of got the numbers in order, we know what we have. Here's what I think you should do. Right. And of course, I'll help you any way I can with respect to actually doing it. But honestly, I can't pay off debt. Only you can. You know what I mean? But I will provide you with, and I'll stand right here again if you want, and I'll show you what we learned and why we're making the recommendations we're making. That would be like deliverable 2. And then deliverable 3 will be really more analyzing the technology and coming back with, here's what we learned, same thing. I won't be able to say, at that moment anyway, I won't be able to say, I think you should look at this piece of technology, right? But I will say we may want to look at additional technology. And for these reasons.
So one of the things I noticed in your proposal is reviewing the accounting systems capabilities,
Yes.
et cetera. One of the things that's difficult for me is just, it would be nice to have a simplified P&L statement that we could look at because you could figure it out, but it would be very nice to have a little bit. So I'm hopeful that is something that you would be able to produce for us.
I can produce that, absolutely, using audits and things like that. But and it's funny because you mentioned that those are the kinds of questions I was asking about. When I start this, or I should say, if I start this, what am I gonna get, right? Where am I gonna get a general ledger? Because there should be one, right? Every transaction that comes in, that's a dollar amount coming in or going out, it should be recorded in a general ledger. That general ledger should very easily be converted to a financial report. That's when I learned that maybe wasn't a strength of the current system. So we'll definitely look at that, and I'll do the research if necessary to work with the system provider to identify what it can do that we're not aware of, and build that if we can. If we can't, that's maybe where another system would come into play.
Would it be a team of people that would physically come here? Would you do this remotely?
Both. But to be honest, the team is going to be me for the most part.
You're the team.
Yeah, I am the team. I do have a partner in North Dakota, in Fargo, where I'm originally from. He's also really good at this stuff. So if I run into a snag or we need to bounce some ideas off, we will work as a team. But for the most part, I'm pretty confident that we can get there.
Where do you live, or where are you located?
I live in Conroe.
Okay, yeah.
It's not a pleasant drive, by the way. Have you guys ever made that drive?
There's no decent way.
Whoa. This is the first time I bought my house in Conroe in 2022, right? Because I was up in Minnesota and North Dakota is where I'm from. And had to get out of the winters. And so I've driven on I-45 north because I drive up north to visit family and stuff quite a bit. I've been on that road a number of times. And today it was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it has to do with the World Cup down in Houston. And then there's also World Cup in Dallas, I believe, right? I don't know if that's what it was, but there was so much traffic. I was like, this is crazy. So anyway, I was going into a small town about an hour from my house. It's called Leona. Does that ring a bell? Anyway, there was some sort of road issue, right? You couldn't tell. 5 miles, I bet, of blocked cars. It took me a half hour to get through Leona. I don't know, what is there, 600 people? And it was unbelievable.
Probably all headed to Seymour.
Yeah.
We're going to grow and thrive, especially. This next gentleman right here may show us how to do that. So
I will tell you the last 50, 60 miles coming into Seymour were awesome. But boy, those first few miles were not. Anyway, any other questions?
if anybody else have
I
a
always get
question
off track. That's a problem for me.
that's all I've got.
Okay. If I can make one more comment, if you decided that you right now today or whenever you decide to vote on it, if it's next month, and you said, I want to vote on it and we want to do all of these, we want all of these deliverables, you can still change your mind. Okay, so just understand that if you said, yes, I want to check them all off, but you decided a month in that you got enough information or whatever else it is, and you don't want to do one of the other ones, it's completely okay. I'm not concerned about that at all. You're not going to be held to that. Okay.
That's all I've got. Thank you for driving up here.
Absolutely.
Are you driving back tonight?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. So, but it'll be dark and the traffic should be totally different. Absolutely. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Good luck. Now, we have a presentation from Mr. Justin Jaworski, my EDO, concerning economic development opportunities. We've only been trying to schedule this for a while, but well, we got her done. You're
Third
here.
time's the charm, Mayor. Third time's the charm. Thank you all for having me here. My name is Justin Jaworski. Mayor, thank you for giving me the proper pronunciation of my name. I was adopted by a Polish guy, and I've been apologizing it all of my life, it seems like. I started my ADO about, 6 months ago after about 20 years of public service. I've worked for Texas cities from the South Plains, Lubbock region, back over to Abilene, where I'm from, and have had the privilege of helping communities in that process kind of understand how to grow their local economies, how Texas enables them to do that through their either their existing municipal corporate structure or through an economic development sales tax. I think in late 25, was it, Lauren put out with an RFQ for services for providing some general sense of economic development, I guess, consulting. And I don't remember thinking back some of those. We got so focused on strategic planning. And I remember kind of looking at one of your buildings a little bit earlier, getting invited to kind of get a sense of what that potential would be. And I'm happy to have that discussion. Grateful to be here. A little bit about me. In addition to the 20 years, I'm born and raised Texan, actually from the Abilene area. Grew up there. I went to a school so small that we didn't even have an incorporated municipality. If you've heard of the metropolis of Eula, Texas, raise your hand. All right, I'm in good company. So I grew up as Eula Pirate. Ended up going to Abilene Christian's College of Business there, and got married to a girl I went to church with. Grew up there and left, and spent half my career in the Dust Bowl of Texas. Had just about enough of that. Decided to come back to this area where I've enjoyed raising our two kids out just outside of Bayard, and decided that. We'd get into the private enterprise, helping rural communities. And I think over my time, when I look back and I look at some of the potential, I go on a 20-year zoom out. When I started doing economic development for Texas cities 20 plus years ago, the Texas economy was in the neighborhood of the 13th largest in the world. And today we have elevated to the 8th largest economy in the world. We just surpassed the Russian Federation, I believe, this last year. You put that in context of where we are as a state, and you think about the fact that we have our own fuel, our own fiber, our own fuel, our own food. We have our own independent electric grid. We have international seaports, an international border. The economy has been growing enormously in the Lone Star State for the past 20 years. Despite what we see on the 5 o'clock news, Texas has been setting the standard for how you do it. And I'm proud of the Lone Star State. I know a lot of Texas cities have been asking about how they can get their slice of the pie, think about how their communities can benefit. And I think what more is important when you think about economic development, I think it's to a greater extent in a community perspective, it's about preserving your way of life. It's making sure that your economic foundation stays, because it's the foundation for which our schools tax, it's the foundation for which our municipalities tax, and certainly the foundation for our counties. So I think a lot of the discussion that we've had of late has been about maybe composing or looking at the composition of the strategic plan for Seymour. I'm happy to provide to that. I think Lauren provided a breakdown of some of the content we were going to go through in a workshop. And if that is more appropriate, Mayor, if that looks like a good use of time, happy to do that too. But I mainly just wanted to be here tonight, introduce myself so you could put a face to a name, know a little bit about me, kind of ask about who I am, what I do, why I do what I do, maybe what would look like something for Seymour. Maybe like the previous gentleman, my services are available on demand on a case-by-case basis, or we can carve out a project that maybe needs to be taken. And maybe that's some of the questions we could kind of go through back and forth. But I emphasize the strategic plan mainly because, getting back to what you were looking at, I cannot encourage folks enough that good people make good decisions with good information. But even folks that have the best intent of heart have a hard time making good decisions without the complete picture. And that's really what your plan does. We never set out, we never plan to fail. Sometimes we just fail to plan. And being intentional about where are we going, and where do we see ourselves in 10 years is just a good exercise. We do it with our kids, Lord knows. We do it with our businesses. We do it with our retirement, and our cities really aren't any different. We think about how we fit into the world, and the world has changed a lot, even in the last 10 years, as I think about what drives rural Texas and what that really means for the future of our way of life. And I'm privileged to be in this state. I am not going anywhere. You couldn't pay me to leave the Lone Star State, but I think there's a lot of potential here. This is the first city I've entered which I've ever been greeted by a dinosaur, to whoever's credit that was, on the south side. So with that being said, I'm happy to discuss further about kind of what maybe a plan would look like, or maybe some other supplemental services, or what growth looks like if I can be of use to the council in that capacity. Mayor.
Can I interject real quick? One of the hats that I still wear for y'all is economic development. The reason why I think we need to consider, I endorse Justin because I've known him for over 10 years, is because I got a call this week about a gentleman that's moving a business from San Diego to Texas. He has another one in Tennessee, and he's partnered with the aluminum extrusion plant in McGargle, and they need a fair trade place to house stuff. And yeah, you know what I did? Okay, I will call somebody, you know, because I don't have that kind of background, honestly, with our economic development, what we've done the last 10 years to go, okay, I know exactly what you need, where to go and what to do. Justin understands when, if I call him and say, I have a gentleman looking for a fair trade zone at something like, he's like, oh, okay, I understand what that means. The other side of that, other than having knowledge, is the time. I have 5 things that I do every week, and I try to slide economic development in there, but it usually turns into marketing more than it does actual economic development. And so having somebody well-versed in the trade, but also in the knowledge of how to plant businesses and grow businesses is something that you're not getting from me. So I just want y'all to understand that with all my other things that I'm doing, you're not getting what you should get out of that. So you don't have to answer the fair trade zone question. I'm just saying we're seeing that growth. Those phone calls are being made, and we really need to be able to answer that in some capacity greater than what I think I can offer you.
Justin, if we engaged you, would you be in Seymour on some kind of a regular basis? Would it be mainly a remote? And I guess it depends on what we engaged you to do,
Right.
you know, for one thing. Yeah, anyway, I would assume you would be here some to,
Yes, Mayor. So it's similar to what the previous gentleman said. It's kind of a combination of the two. So the planning process starts with a full assessment of what do you have? You know, when you go to sell something, so to say, or promote something, you need to know what you have. So you get a full assessment of that. And then the other pieces that you kind of consider are your local assets and engagement of the parties involved. It would heavily involve your city manager and Lauren over there is kind of filling in and the council as well. So your plan's kind of there to shape. I'm going to tell you what I see, kind of get some feedback from you. So it depends on how much you engage me. You can go bare rung minimum, and then you can look at adding some other options. Honestly, Mayor, given the fact that y'all are where you are in the context, probably starting small would be advisable. Maybe kind of do some peer analysis, you know, looking at what you're going up against and get an idea of putting yourself in the context of where are we and how do we fit into the Texas puzzle, so to speak. So to answer your question, it's a combination of the two. So I have I guess a mix to kind of fill in that picture, so to speak.
once we kind of, I'm just thinking out into the future, you get our statistical information and what are our assets, what are our most positive points. Do people, do potential, you know, businesses, enterprises, do they contact you? Do you reach out to them? Do you kind of figure out where we might fit in somebody's, you know, business plan? How would that typically work, or does it work both ways?
It can work both ways. The ideal scenario is you have a local person that is available. Could we establish a contact system where I provide those supplemental services until such time the council can determine it's appropriate to maybe staff those more fully? Sure, you could do that. You're in my personal experience, being vocal about that availability is key, and having that availability is key. You know, in my years, when I watch programs that are heavily laden with a lot of projects, it's because they have a presence. That presence is advertised, and that individual is there to take that call or answer that. Heaven knows my assistants in years past have been worn out with foot traffic, but it's a numbers game. You're getting folks in there and you're trying to determine, is this project something we want? Does it merit public involvement? Is there enough economic value to warrant our participation at what level? All those questions necessary to ask in the validation process when you get a public entity involved in that process. But there's well over 1,000 cities in the state of Texas. The vast majority of them are staffed and dedicated to do a program like this. So I think y'all are wise to be asking this question. It's sure good timing to be asking it when the state's in a growth area. I grew up in the oil and boom and bust. Unfortunately, as a kid, it was bust cycle when I realized. I watched my parents have to reinvent themselves, found out we were all in the oil and gas business, whether we liked it or not. It actually is what gave birth to economic development in the state of Texas as it exists today. Local leadership realizing we can't be so fully vested in one or two industries because it'll cause a collapse of banking, finance, real estate, the whole thing. That's why ag and minerals are so important when you think about your vitality, your future. And personally, you know, where I'm at, wherever I am, I want my kids to be able to have a job. We got too focused as communities. I'm gonna preach for a minute, forgive me. We got too invested in this state about, and I'm a product of it too, sending our kids off to college and we export them. Why? Why don't we have something for them to do worthy of their talents locally? I think that's a valid question to ask. And it's one of the reasons the Big Five in Texas have grown like crazy. Your Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Austin, San Antonio. Why? They're black holes for talent. They're not going there for the money. They're going there for the access to the human resources as much as they are the capital and other pieces. So now's a good time to be thinking about growth. It's always good 30 years ago to enjoy the shade of a tree. So maybe this is a time where we're thinking about tree planting.
Well, you know, it's frustrating. The other gentleman was talking about what the traffic was like, you know, south of here, and it's horrible. Austin, Houston,
Yep.
Dallas, Fort Worth area. And then you get out here and
Peace and quiet.
it's peace and quiet. And I mean, kind of like Ms. Townley here said, that's why we live here. You know, it's a really, I mean, I'm preaching a little bit too, but it's getting to be a better and better place to be in the hustle and bustle of life,
Yes.
you know, basically.
Yes.
And I know were you at Cisco?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I know they're larger than us, maybe by 1,000 people, 1,500 people, I don't know. But you did some good there. You know, I can't recite what all you did, but I know you were successful there in bringing in some economic development. So, and you were at Floridata. So that's a similar, I think we may be larger than Floridata, I don't know. But you do have some experience with people like us, I'll just put it that way.
Rural Texas' biggest advantage is that it's work culture. You know, I think most council is concerned about growth. That we don't want to lose what you got. You're not. Let me settle that right now. You're not going to lose what you got. That ain't going to happen. That's not possible.
So one of the questions that I was going to, well, I have two questions for you. I'll ask the first one. How are you considering AI in all of this? Because I think it's going to change our future and change probably the way we look at economic development. So how would you incorporate all of that into, if we were to engage you?
Well, you know, I'm like a lot of folks. I'm watching it. I say, and it's hard to group. I try not to group people or categories and things like that because you can miss or appreciate the details of the finer points of an individual project. Generally speaking, that industry has grown exponentially far beyond what folks thought it was going to be. So a lot of communities that have supported it understood it to be A, and it turned out to be B. And that's where doing your due diligence on the upfront is necessary. Some towns are realizing there's a cost to their water and their infrastructure, and some towns are realizing that there's not as much. But there's always a cost to every project. I don't necessarily endorse or condone one industry over the other necessarily. Your main focus is what the statute really focuses on in Texas, which is what's called primary jobs. Primary jobs infuse new dollars into the economy. That's their definition. That's why ag is the lifeblood of rural Texas. It's why ranching is the lifeblood of rural Texas. It's why oil and gas is the lifeblood of rural Texas. It infuses those dollars. What comes about, we'll see. I'm not one to go and recruit something like that. I think I worked for Abilene for 6 years. I think Abilene's going to be in a very interesting situation considering their leadership bought before they test drove, and I can speak ill of them in that regard because I worked for them 6 years, and I don't think they did their due diligence, but I wasn't there when they made those kinds of decisions, and if I had, I would advise them differently, to be candid. So I'd say with everything, you take it on a case-by-case basis, and you determine on the merits of what you think is right for you.
That's a, I don't know, we just go to Haskell County and they're going to end up with 5 data centers, and it's just fundamentally we hear, going to change their community. And we don't have one currently that I mean, there may be one coming down the pike, but who knows? Those things can change too, we're told.
Generally, as a rule of thumb, I'll say this, Mayor, and forgive me for interrupting, but it's been my experience, the quicker a business can show up, the quicker they could leave. And those are some things to keep in mind. Data centers were the latest fad. Before that, there were call centers. You want to look at the capital intensive nature of a project. And I remember back when wind energy and solar energy was all the rage, but that's when the CREZ lines were being built, and we were talking about the load capacity of can ERCOT handle all the power demand. You look how many people are moving to this state on an average day. It's tremendous. You look at what's happening, it's tremendous. So again, I just look at your neighbors as a good example, but I don't ever jump off the bridge just because Johnny did. You decide what's right for you. I'm just here to help give you some tools, give you some direction, and tell you what's been my experience and equip you to do what you feel like is good for Seymour, Texas.
So will you do some sort of an assessment of the town's readiness for, I grew up here, I moved back here by choice, but there are people in the town that really don't want any change. They're pretty happy with stagnation, and so building a case for change is, I think, harder than some of the things that we're talking about.
I don't think you're building the case for change. I think you're building the case for survival, honestly. And I'm sure Seymour is doing fine. It looks like y'all are doing fine. When I coach folks to the degree of being fiscally responsible is your first job, number one. And you think about business development. That doesn't necessarily mean you're recruiting something new. It doesn't always mean that. Sometimes your biggest opportunity is something in your backyard that you didn't even realize was already there. And that's part of the process. So going through the planning doesn't really defend, quote, change. I'm just going to make the case for what I think you can and can't do. It's up to you as council, if you'll allow me to be so bold to make that case.
I think that Nancy's question leads well into that strategic plan. I think that's kind of what you have to look at is what's your unemployment rate? How many actual employable people age-wise and et cetera, workers do you have? What are we enticing? The BRNE, the Business Retention and Expansion Program that we do not have right now. And so the strategic planning part of that is what's going to help us identify our assets, our liabilities within our community, and how we can best place those to either attract or grow. But then the other side of contracting my EDO to actually represent us in those negotiations if they come up. And so that's kind of the two sides of the coin that I see for this. And I see a need for both of them. That contract may be on a case-by-case basis where I need to be able to make a phone call for a fair trade question. And he's going to bill us because his knowledge is worth something. But the strategic plan part is something that we need to be able to all contribute to and understand, and then give us executable goals where we can say we're here, but we want to be there, and this is how we're going to do it. And that's what the plan kind of, correct?
Yes, at the end of the plan, that's really your goal is I'm going to give you something that you can do. I think my biggest beef with hiring consultants over the years is they're really good at just saying a lot of abstract nothing, which has no utility to it. And maybe it's my candid Texas nature, but at the end of the day, I want something I can do something with. So the action plan at the end of that's really designed to focus on that. And again, y'all are kind of starting that. I know you've got Lauren there, and she is an enormous asset. Can't say enough good about her. She just is full of energy and lots of ideas. But again, I think you're thinking about tree planting. You just want to enjoy the tree, you know. And I think it's what I spent time mostly in Cisco. It's the number one question I get in rural Texas is the concern about, are we still going to be who we are? You're not going to change who you are. Economic development doesn't change who you are. You change who you are. Will people move to Seymour? That'd be nice. You know, are you going to double your population? That is so statistically improbable. It could happen. Maybe they really wanted to see the dinosaur that I saw today. It could happen, but I don't think it will. Your goal is to grow organically, and my rule of thumb is slow and steady wins the day. Those shot in the arms are, while fun and they grab headlines, they're not good for communities. I just don't recommend them necessarily. I hope that answers. And sorry if I rambled, and I apologize for soapbox preaching. I do that every now and then.
I have a question. Have you done any kind of like pre-homework on Seymour since you and Lauren have been talking? Like, have you kind of looked at it and give us like a teaser or spoiler of ideas that you might have? I mean, just a little sample, you know, of things that just to see what kind of thoughts for Seymour.
Yes, sir. I have, and I think I got a good sense from both Jeff and Lauren. I think, generally speaking, y'all are in a position to kind of plant some seeds right now. What I would suggest in some of those is going to formalize who you are. And what I can sense right now is Lauren has got this persona that y'all maybe could announce who you are and where you are a little better and kind of characterize. You've done fantastic on the tourism side of things. I think that's great, but maybe focusing more on your traditional cash infusing type of growth is where you want to be. You want to understand if you can grow organically, so I'm going to look at that. I'm going to look at you organizationally. If that's what you want me to do, I'm only going to do what you ask me to do. If you don't ask me to do it, then I'm not going to do it. If you want me to just give my candid and raw opinion on this is what I think you all should do, I can do that too. But yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I would appreciate candor and.
Well, most of us need that.
Yeah, I heard somebody talking today. I think they're trying to name us the prehistoric, instead of like the dinosaur capital of Texas, the prehistoric capital, because our museum focuses on stuff before dinosaurs a lot, and we're pre-dinosaur, so the prehistoric capital of Texas. So yeah, I heard that today.
What else can I answer for you? Thank you for the questions. I appreciate those.
Any more questions up here? Justin, I think we need to kind of roll this around. I mean, I'm speaking for myself in my head and kind of figure out, what we want you to do and do we want to do it? And at some point, you can give us a price point or a rate or a range or something.
Be happy to do so. Yes, sir.
Sure. Anybody else? Justin, thank you.
Council,
Good
thank you very much for
presentation.
having me.
Yeah,
Second
thank you.
time I've met you, and just appreciate your talents and what you've done in other places. And it's like you said, my takeaway is it's not changing the town. It's, if you're not going if you're not going forward, you're not static.
Yeah.
You're going backwards.
That's well said, Mayor. Life's a treadmill. You got to run to keep up. You got to sprint to get ahead. And if you're standing still, unfortunately, you're falling behind. It's just the nature of it. Thank you, Council.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You'll have a better drive.
Hour and a half, you're back. That's it. All right, you too. I got amused at the other gentleman, so that's easy going back, I think. I'm not gonna say anything, it's gonna be awful.
y'all to really process and think about the two presentations. I think there's some value in each. Just kind of get y'all's wisdom and seeing what y'all think is best for our community. And I didn't want this to be an action item because I think it's too big of a decision, and I think I'll need time to talk about it, process it, think about it, ask questions, and then we'll kind of get direction from our mayor on next month. If y'all want one on there, both on there, or maybe nothing.
Well, I appreciate you arranging all this because it's getting them lined up to be here. And it was good information. It wasn't, I don't feel like they flooded me with too much. We kind of got an outline and a general idea of what it would entail. So I appreciate y'all getting that set up. It was helpful to me.
I think we're in a great situation, and I think the decisions we make, I think over the next 6 months to a year, could really define Seymour over the next 50 years, So I think it's something we need to take very seriously and for the future of our community.
So, gentlemen, I just piqued my curiosity about I'm now on the financial consultant. Oh my God, that I got the impression that he thinks our systems might be broken. I did not have the impression before reading all this that I knew we had a lot of room for improvement, but I wouldn't consider it.
Well,
Broken.
the reason he was saying that is the fact that, when we switched from Encode to Fund You and then back to Encode, that was before mine and Lauren's time. When Encode was put back into place, it was not programmed correctly.
Right.
And that has created a lot of the issues. And so we've been struggling trying to get Encode and find a path forward to get this cleaned up. However, just this past week, Suzanne actually had a great meeting with Encode, and she felt like they really made some great progress. And so they're both, I think the next 2 or 3 weeks, they have another meeting. And so for the first time, I really felt like Suzanne was really optimistic about the Encode system and it performing and functioning the way it needed to be. But there at one point when I was talking to him, I was starting to question whether we were with the right system or not because we could not get support, to get us where we needed to go. So that's where he was coming from. But we're in a different place now than we were a month ago.
We've done so much cleanup.
Yeah.
And I would still discuss it. I was on that because I think that there is room for opportunity. Clean it up and have everybody understand it. All the systems.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was a little alarmed when I heard it say that, are we more broken than I thought we were?
Yeah, the way he came off made it sound like we don't know where our money's at, what we're doing, our audits are messed up, and I was like, we're caught up on
Yeah,
all that
we
stuff.
come a long ways, but we still have a lot of cash there.
The money stuff, I can understand it, so I don't know why he can't understand it if he's a financial person. It sounded like, I know you've been talking to him, but yeah,
Well,
I know you've
things
been
have changed.
talking to him,
Yeah.
but his presentation kind of came off demeaning and like it was snake oil salesman trying to convince us that we don't know what we're talking
Well,
about and he can fix everything.
I think some of that,
I just didn't like, he didn't sound like we were lost in the sauce out here and we don't know what we're doing with our money or anything. And it was kind of, I don't know,
I
I was
think,
kind of like, I was looking over thinking, what have y'all been, what's going on? What are we missing here? Y'all
No.
telling us something that we don't know
no,
what's going
I
on?
think he was here in 29, you worked with him in 2022 when we were trying to,
We're putting some bonds.
yes, and didn't know if we didn't know what we had. And I think he may be hearkening back to some of that. I don't know.
But I still think there's some room for growth about exactly how much money we have in each specific area.
We'll get out of the thing, because sometimes I'm lost, and I'm fairly literate at understanding this stuff, so.
And we're getting better, but that's why I thought he would come in and really break this down for us so we know exactly how much money. Now, as far as the one part, the system, I think that's off the table now because of the progress we made. Then again, I think that we do have some money. And we don't know exactly how much is that undesignated that y'all can either invest, pay that off, or, whatever, a combination. And so there's got to be a rationale for
Well,
doing
I'm
whatever it
also
is.
have to plan.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, we're just.
Yeah, plans. I guess that's a hard pill to swallow because his presentation's like 120 man hours for 20 grand, and if we're in that big of a bind, then he could fix it. I mean, 120 man hours, but we got to pay him 20 grand. I didn't think we were in that bad of a situation. I guess that's why I was kind of like, we're missing something here. Somebody's not telling us something because we shouldn't be in that big of a bind.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think we're in a, I think I think we know, well, I'm just going back to the last audit, and I was asking Paul, when he presented the audit, do we have $6 million, that we could, and he was just kind of nodded, that, or maybe it's more than that, $8 million. And I think I don't know, I'm not an accountant, but I think that gentleman was, and I get what you're saying, because it did kind of come off like, well, do y'all know where you're at? And yes,
that was just.
that kind of thing.
But
So,
our audit was good, and it clearly identified restricted and unrestricted funds. And
Yeah.
so while a portion of his presentation, like we might not want to engage that, the investment portion, identifying the highest and best use of those funds. Do we need to pay off this debt because the interest we're going to save is going to be able to us to do this? Yes, that first little, what do you call it? I don't know, portion. I don't think that really necessarily applies now that all of our audits are done and we're good. But that second portion was great.
I might just holler out at the folks out here. We're going to start our regular meeting in 6 minutes. So this was our early presentation meeting, but we'll be into that in about 6 minutes. So.
I don't try to do because of that. I don't try to say, well, we don't need this at all. I think that even if we don't want him, we need to at least think through bring y'all some options. Say, if you do this, then this. If you do this, then this.
Yeah.
Pay off debt or invest it, I mean,
No, that stuff makes.
that kind of stuff.
I do think, we do need to pre-plan. There's some things that are just going to have, they break and they wear out. And it seems almost now like, I think you mentioned the word reactive, as opposed to having a plan that we know we're going to have to do some of this. So I like that part of it, and I felt like that part was good. And I am not opposed to him. I would agree with Skylar. I was like, are we that bad?
I would say, stop saying that.
Stop saying it.
Maybe I inadvertently conveyed that to him. Yeah. I mean, it could be my fault, but it just hard to.
Well, I think it would be great to have a system, regardless of the personnel that we have, because, unfortunately, people come and go. If we had a good system, a foundation that we all agreed on and understood and could produce reliable reports then to me, that would be worth an engagement, because, we're a small enough community that our resources, our bench strength is pretty narrow. So having a really good system that they don't have to spend a lot of brain power trying to just figure out how to make the thing work. And that is, I think, would be helpful.
That's what we spent all of our time and resources
Mhm.
on that.
All right. Folks, we're going to start at 7, our full-scale meeting, and we've got just a few minutes. We'll just break here till 7 o'clock, if that's all right with y'all. Okay.
He needs a little sales. Watching the dog time when I left. We were talking about that. I forgot what it's. I don't remember. It's the open. Of course it was. Maybe I don't know what it is, but it's supposed to look like. You can tell my ignorance and what it's supposed to look like. Somebody's probably the kind of guy that really is. I mean, yeah. I don't know what this is.
We're going to open our regular meeting. Sorry. We had a couple of presentations at 6, and I'm going to go ahead and reread this. This is a regular city council meeting. It's being held Thursday, June 18th, 2026. We had some economic development presentations and a financial presentation earlier. The regular meeting begins at 7 p.m. Seymour City Hall, 301 North Washington, Seymour, Texas. All notices have been duly posted in accordance and conformance with the Government Code of the State of Texas, Section 551.072C. City of Seymour attempts to make its meetings accessible to all its citizens. If you have need of auxiliary aids, please notify the city secretary at 940-889-3148 at least 48 hours in advance. The agenda is also posted on the city's website at cityofseymour.org with the following agenda to be considered. Let's do our roll call. Council Lady Nancy Townley, Council Lady Karen Kalachik,
Here.
Councilman Billy Henricks,
Here.
Councilman Skylar Henricks.
Here.
Okay, let's do our Pledge of Allegiance, and then if you will remain standing for our prayer. Pledge allegiance to the flag. Councilman Henricks, Skylar Henricks will lead our prayer this evening.
Father God, we want to thank you for the privilege that we get to serve this community. We hope, and we ask that you can grant us wisdom, patience, and just that genuine desire to serve our community and the people who elected us. May our decisions tonight reflect the integrity, fairness, and the care for our community that it deserves. And in your name we pray. Amen.
Okay, be seated. It's too much standing. Announcements, Mayor Pro Tem Billy Henricks, would you have any announcements today? No? What other council members? I've got several. Don't look at me like that. Surprise, surprise. Let's don't forget, rodeo is going on July 10th and 11th, the oldest continuous rodeo in the state of Texas, by the way. I'll go ahead and mention this. I Went to the Baylor County Commissioners Court meeting, their last meeting a couple of weeks ago, and presented, I guess, a request. We've been working with Emergency Management Coordinator John Hostas to try to come up with a community shelter. This time of year, we live where you could get a tornado, really severe weather. It just jumps up on you. And I've had people call me with a storm approaching and going, where can I go? And that's a pretty helpless feeling, because this gentleman worked at the Dollar General at one time. I said, I might go get in the walk-in cooler. Now, that's not a very good solution. We have looked around for different things, talked to the post office. They're not able to allow us to use their basement. It's actually a fallout shelter. And it's just government bureaucracy, I guess you might say. We got approval, or I think the county was okay with using their county barn, but it's out on the Abilene Highway. And a lot of people don't have a clue where that is, and you'd have to travel a couple of miles to get out there. So I did make that request. If you have any ideas, we're looking for grants. Mr. Hostas is looking for a grant, maybe through FEMA, where we could build a shelter, or get a grant in some way, maybe through the school. If they built a structure that they could get money to harden that to the point it could be a storm shelter. So
So do we have any structures within the post office in Seymour that currently?
we approached the school about the elementary school. It's a very well-built building from all accounts, and you've got an issue with kids during the day and staffing and that kind of thing. I suggested the courthouse, because there's people there 24/7. It appears to be a very stout building. There are various hallways and rooms you can get in and be protected. So until we could find a better solution. So like I say, if anybody here or within the sound of my voice has an idea, let us know. But we are trying to get something done on that. Might also, this is, might mention there are 3 buildings being extensively remodeled or rebuilt in downtown Seymour. That's encouraging to see that. So somebody's got confidence in our town. I do. I think everybody in this room does, but it's good to see it. The Night of the Living Dead, the play is still going on. It's next Friday, or I guess this coming Friday and Saturday. So be sure and attend that. And I'll mention this one last thing. We may need to put this on the agenda at some point, but Dr. Brazier and I talked about, there are a few areas in town where people get muddy water in their water lines. And we're going to attempt to find some kind of a solution to that. And we're seeking millions of dollars in grants to redo our infrastructure, but we'd like to see if there's some way we can address those areas immediately, because my water is always clear, but if it wasn't, I'd be very upset. And so we are trying to deal with that. So that will probably be on a future agenda, hopefully next month. That's all I've got. Okay, let's go to Dr. Jeff Brazier. I think he wants to recognize some people.
Yes, it's a privilege and honor to recognize our Employee of the Month, or in this case, our Lifeguard of the Month. And just want to share with the council, this is, I guess, my 6th year to open up the swimming pool, and we probably had the best start ever. And a lot of that is due to Miss Donnell and her leadership. She's just doing a really extraordinary job, and things are really going right now in a very positive direction. And a lot of that too is she's surrounded herself with really good lifeguards, and they're focused, they're centered. I glance up there at the camera throughout the day, and they're always in their position, watching the water and doing what they're supposed to do. And for me, that is, just such a huge comfort knowing, because it to all of us, and particularly those who grew up in Seymour, know how important that pool is and what impact it had on our lives. And so we want it to be just a safe, fun, enjoyable, memorable place for every child that grows up in Seymour or visits Seymour. And I think we're definitely headed in that direction. And so anyway, I've asked Ms. Donnell to select an Employee of the Month, and she wants us and is nominated Mitchell Fredrickson, who's doing an outstanding job. And so he's one of many great lifeguards that we have. And so we just want to take this opportunity on behalf of the mayor and our city council to tell Mitchell, thank you for your hard work, your dedication. We're giving him the Lifeguard Excellence Award. And this recognition honors those who go above and beyond in protecting lives while serving our community with integrity and excellence. So Mitchell, if you would please come forward and allow the city council to say thank you.
We've come to the part of citizens' comments. You can comment for up to 3 minutes on pretty much any topic that you want to comment. We have other public hearings that if you're up here for that, you can speak in that time frame, or you can also speak public hearings as well. Do we have anybody that wants to do that? If not, let's go to our city administrator reports. Dr. Brazier.
All right, thank you, Mayor. As far as personnel and software membership, everything's really moving in a positive direction. I mean, we're just surrounded by great people, work hard every day to serve our community. And so really proud of where we are, the direction that we're going. And again, the great employees, the supervisors that we have that really working hard to do a great job for y'all. Also, our police department, really proud of them. You see how them out working, being active. They had this past month had 45 warnings and 25 citations. On our financial report, we had another very good month. We were 134,000 in the black. And so basically we're saying that we are taking in more revenues than we're expending. So again, that shows just a great job our supervisors are doing is maintaining and overseeing their finances and doing well there. And then again, I've talked about the city swimming pool, and you know they've been averaging about 350 visitors a week, and so they stay pretty busy. And again, knock on wood, but we just had very few problems, if any at all. And the few problems that we have had, Ms. Donnell has handled those and worked through those. And we did have to call the police a few times, you know, because some parents got into a little argument, but that was all resolved and everybody went about their business. So anyway, overall, our swimming pool is going well and they're doing a great job. And then Lauren may have some information about our dilapidated properties report.
So we sent out a bunch of new notices, which you will see reflected in your public hearings and actions later on. However, let me get down here to where your report is. Sorry. I was doing something else. 40. Okay. Okay, so you did have a tear down on Nevada this week. We focused on Nevada, trying to get Nevada cleaned up before school starts back in August. So most of our notices this week went to Nevada. I don't know if you noticed, but we did have one structure down already this week. That was done by the property owner, not by us. We've also sent some junk and debris letters. You will see them in July. We are doing public hearings on those junk and debris properties, which we normally don't do. They're a bigger action. And so it really needs to have a public hearing because it's going to take extra dollars if we choose to clean those properties up. So every Tuesday, I do code enforcement. Somebody's getting a letter at least once a week now. And you can go through the first part of that report, shows you what I'm working on right now. You can see our cleanup reports in the middle there below the yellow section. That's on our junk and debris. And then below that, you have your completed things that we've done. And as we check them off, we put them down at the bottom. So if you have any questions.
I think I'm okay. Anybody else? All right. I guess we'll get to the public hearings. This is the first reading. Is there comment? I always have to get direction on this. Comments at the second reading, or can a person come forward on this reading?
So this public hearing is available for anybody that would like to have 3 minutes to discuss this permit that's been placed.
Right.
But you will also take action on it.
Yes.
So the permit applicant is here. They can talk to you during the action part of it, so
Okay.
that if you have questions about that property, they can answer them for you.
Okay.
This section is just for the public to put their opinion in.
Okay, gotcha. All right, number 3, concerning 901 North Donald, where a specific use permit has been requested for the purpose of a brand-new manufactured home to be placed at this lot to be used as a permanent residence. And I know we've gotten information on this. Would whoever, if there was someone that would like to comment at this point, you're certainly welcome to do so. You'll have 3 minutes if you want to speak that long. If you want to wait till we get to the action item, you can do that too. So if not, anybody, okay. Then we'll go ahead and go to number 4. Concerning ordinance 2026-03, all Salt Fork fees, adding a mini membership, removing public swimming due to reclassification of pool, defining guests or members and their allowance, and clarifying the youth membership. So we'll get into that in depth when we come back to this. Any comment on that at this time? Should that be a net allowance? Am I looking at that wrong? Number 4?
No. There, at what level do we allow guests?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I need some clarification.
Okay, gotcha. All right, it's number 4. If there's no comment on that, we'll go to number 5. Concerning substandard structure located at 301 North Donald. Anybody would want to comment at this time? Okay. If not, we'll go to number 6, concerning substandard structure located at 401 Southeast Street. Same thing. Anybody would like to comment, you're welcome to do so. Number 7, if not, number 7, concerning substandard structure located at 409 North Tackett. And anybody can speak on that now, or we'll come back to it. Okay, come on up. Yeah, if you'll turn that microphone on and speak right into it and tell us who you are and whatever you want to say. Yeah, go ahead and take it out. Take it out of the thing there if you want to.
Hello.
There you go.
That property happens to be mine, and I was just speaking with her, trying to find out what it was. And it's one of the windows that isn't boarded up that's broken, and then the roof. I was planning on redoing the roof, but when I started taking off the shingles from it, I realized that some of the joists and the braces and everything were rotten too. So I have to take the whole thing off, and it costs more money, which I didn't have to finish the rest of the roof or to take it off completely. And it would have been a waste of time just to put new shingles and board over the rotten stuff and collapse on me or break, and then I have to redo it again anyway. And I'm not rich, so I'm trying my best to put the money together so that I can do it. At the minimum, I would need about 6 more months or so to try to save more money so that I can buy all the supplies to get it started. Besides that, I think that's all that it was, the window and the roof.
Anybody else? And we'll come back to this before we do anything. So
Okay.
we might holler back at you to come back and speak when we get to it later on, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. What's your name again?
Dario Hernandez.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 18. No, wait, sorry. Number 8, concerning substandard structure located at 1101 East Nevada. If anybody would like to speak on that. If not, let's go to number 9, concerning substandard structure located at 707 East Nevada. Anybody on that? No? Okay. We've got the consent agenda.
Mayor?
yes.
The consent agenda needs to be approved without 12 and 13. Those budget adjustments did not get
Okay,
provided.
so 13 is off.
Both 12 and 13.
Okay, perfect. 10, 11, and, 10 and 11.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agendas out of 10 and 11.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. All opposed, the same. And there's no opposition, so it's approved. Let's go to our action items. We're going to go back through this list again and some more. Discuss, approve, and take action concerning the bid received for 301 North Cedar Street. And Lauren, do you want to, I think we've got it in our notes here. I can read it or you can read it.
This bid is from Anthony and Christine Loran. And we are lucky that Mr. Loran is here.
Just in time.
His bid was $500 for the lot to ensure that the back taxes and the $12,500 lien by the city on the property for the demolition of the old house. I'm sorry. So they were unsure of the back taxes and the $12,500 lien on the property for the demolition. They are willing to pay part of the lien if an agreement lowering that amount can be reached. And they just want to see the lot maintained and not turned into an RV park or something